Lesson 4. Traveling through air. Nevin Sullivan. Introduction. Nevin Sullivan, writer and publisher, usually writes on scientific subjects. In his Progress in the Modern World, he explains, in simple language, many things which we generally tend to consider too scientific or too technical. Contents. Introduction. In this extract Traveling Through the Air, taken from his book Progress in the Modern World, Nevin Sullivan deals with the design of an aeroplane, its various parts, and their functions, and the differences between a helicopter and an aeroplane. Man's experiments. In the past, men dreamed of flying with the help of artificial wings and gas-filled balloons. Then men found aeroplanes to go at the speed of sound. Modern aeroplanes are made of metal. Light metals such as aluminium are used to save weight. Steel and titanium are used for very high-speed aeroplanes. Engines in an aeroplane. Aeroplanes have a body called a fuselage with wings at the sides and a tail with two small wings at the back. The engines are in different places in different kinds of aeroplanes. Very often, they are in or underneath the wings. But in some of the newest aeroplanes, they are placed on each side of the fuselage near the tail. The pilot lets the engines pull the aeroplanes forward along the ground. The air pushes upwards underneath them. It pushes so strongly that the aeroplane is lifted into the air and it flies. Kinds of engines and their functions. There are two kinds of engines, the piston engine with propellers and the jet engine often without propellers. The turboprop engine has a propeller as well as a jet engine. Propeller engines work well at low speeds. Jet engines work better at higher speeds. Turboprop engines work well at both low and higher speeds, but they cannot move an aeroplane along as fast as pure jet engines. Various controls for guiding the aeroplanes. The pilot has various controls for guiding the aeroplane. There are hinged pieces called elevators at the back of the tailplane and the rudder at the tail fin. The elevators are turned up or down to make the aeroplane climb or dive. The rudder is turned to the right or the left to make the aeroplane turn to the right or the left. There are flaps called ailerons at the back of the wings. If the pilot turns one of the ailerons on the wing up and the one on the other wing down, the aeroplane flies one wing lower than the other. Designing aeroplanes. Fast aeroplanes are streamlined. They are so shaped that they move as easily as possible through the air. In designing aeroplanes, their exact models are made and placed in wind tunnels and are specially shaped to avoid resistance to air. Radio transmitters and radar transmitters. The pilot uses the radio and the radar in guiding the airliner. He uses the radio transmitters to find out where he is at any given moment. Radar beams give warning of any mountain ahead or other places. At an airport, there are radar transmitters. These are used to show the men in the control room where planes are as they approach the airfield. At night, Lights on the ground show where the runways are. In bad weather, he is guided by the controller or by special radar and special instruments. The pilot and the controller always talk to each other in English. Difference between helicopters and aeroplanes. Helicopters are different from aeroplanes. Helicopters do not have wings. There is a great horizontal propeller called a rotor above fuselage. The blades of the rotor are really the helicopter's wings. The angle of the rotor blades can be changed to pull the helicopter sideways or forwards or backwards. Helicopters can go straight up or down and therefore do not need runways like ordinary planes. They can lift the wounded people from the forest or a sinking boat. Conclusion. Today, most countries have their own airlines connecting them to the rest of the world. Airways help to make the world smaller by bringing people together. The essay is couched in the simplicity of language. Even those who do not know much of science can follow this article. Summary. The aeroplane is man's triumph over natural surroundings. It helps him to fly at the speed of sound. Aeroplanes have a body called a fuselage with wings at the sides and a tail with 2 wings at the back. The engines are usually in or underneath the wings. But in some of the newest planes, they are placed by each side of the fuselage. There are 2 kinds of engines: the piston engine with propellers and the jet engine without the propeller. The turbo engine has a propeller as well as a jet plane. Propeller engines work well at low speed, jet engines at higher speed and turboprop engines at both speeds. The pilot has various controls like elevators, the rudder and ailerons for controlling the aeroplane. The aeroplanes are so shaped that they move as easily as possible through the air. The pilot uses the radio transmitter and the radar transmitter in guiding the aeroplane. Helicopters are different from ordinary planes. They do not have fixed wings. They can go straight up or down, and so they do not need runways. Airways make the world smaller by bringing people together. Supplementary materials. 1. Explain briefly how the piston engine works. The piston engine burns petrol and makes a series of explosions inside the cylinder of the engine. Each explosion forces a piston to and fro in the cylinder. Several pistons in each engine together turn a crankshaft. The crankshaft turns the propeller. The propeller turns round quickly and the curved blades pull the aeroplane forwards. 2. Explain briefly how the jet engine works. The jet engines without propellers have a compression at the front. The compressor sucks the air into the engine and heats the air very quickly. The heat makes the air expand and pushes against the front of the engine and the rest of the aeroplane forward. Jet engines work better at high speeds. 3. To what uses does a pilot put radar? Radar has a special kind of radio which has waves sent out from an aeroplane. Beams of radar waves are sent out from an aeroplane. These waves are reflected back from objects all around and are shown on a screen. By looking at the waves reflected from the ground, the pilot can see a picture of the land over which he is flying. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe and share.